Please excuse the differences in volume between the two voices. We are learning as we go.
Fictional narratives are not bound by reality. Instead, they emerge from the imaginative faculties of the author. However, certain genres such as folklore can obscure these distinctions. Folk tales frequently originate from a historical event or the experiences of actual individuals, yet gradually transform into fictionalized narratives over time. Folklore is the traditional beliefs, customs, and stories of a community passed through the generations by word of mouth. Fairy tales, legends, myths, tall tales, and fables are all within the folklore realm.
Come with us as we delve into these folklores, hearing new tales spun by Phaedra and learning new things that few people know with Sam. This is Fiction and Folklore. Hello everyone and welcome to Fiction and Folklore. We are your hosts.
I'm Phaedra Weldon. I write and read the fiction. The fiction will come first, and for those who find this podcast on YouTube, Sam will provide a visual drawing of something represented within the story.
I'm Sam Adams, and I'll be reading the folklore, which is the inspiration for the fiction, but after that story is read. Today we have for you our very first podcast. Our topic, the Haunted Chinese Cemetery of San Antonio, Texas.
It's a common misconception that mediums are psychic, or, for a lack of a better explanation, telepathic, or clairvoyant. Because if I'd have known why my best friend was beating on my door that morning, and I could see the future with any of those big words, I would not have answered. Maybe. I was suffering from what I feared was the flu. Not COVID, but the other one. I didn't get a shot this year, and yeah, I know. I work in a hospital, so there's no excuse. I had a headache that reached the follicles of my hair. It was somewhat of a chore to get out of bed and amble to the front door, since my roommate sat on the couch close by, playing video games with his headphones on, and didn't move. My senses were pretty much nil. It felt as if my head were stuffed with mind-numbing cotton. I had an overwhelming feeling of dread as I looked through the peephole. I saw Esther, my best friend from high school, jumping up and down since she was closer to the ground than me. I stood at 6 foot even. Esther was shorter, clocking in around 5'3". Might be 5'2". When I opened the door and tensed at the February air as it blasted into my warm apartment, Esther bustled by me, her messenger bag on her shoulder. She was the envy of most of my friends she wasn't interested in. She stopped as I shut the door, locked it, and turned to face her, when she reached up to slap a hand on my forehead. "You have a fever." Hello, E. How are you? Not sick? That's great. Me? Lucas? I have the flu, and I'm not someone you should be around right now. I had my shot. I shook my head. I went down the hall into my bedroom. I heard her tell Tony hello, and of course he didn't hear her. And when I climbed back into bed, I shivered at the cold sheets. I really wished my flannel sheets were clean. She dropped her bag on the floor, checked the heating blanket on my bed, cranked it up, went into my bathroom. I heard her rummaging around. "Why are you here?" She came out of my bathroom with a bottle, a small glass of water, and my digital thermometer. She set the water and bottle of fever reducers on my nightstand. She held the thermometer under the light of my lamp. I heard a few beeps, and then she held it in my face. "Under the tongue." "Esther," but she'd already gagged me with it, so I took it and arranged it under my tongue. She sat down next to me and opened the bottle. "I'm sorry, Lucas. If I'd have known you were sick, I wouldn't have said yes, but I did. And now all the plans are made and paid for." "Plans?" I managed to ram the stick in my mouth. I waited, wanting an answer and not really wanting to know what my temperature was. She held a pill and looked really upset. "Remember that idea my drunkle Stan came up with?" I blinked at her. "Not really." "You know, the night you told him there was this little girl in his library. You sensed her, and when he researched the house, he discovered who she was." The stick went off. She plucked it out and looked at it. "Shit, it's 101.3. That's high for an adult." "It's the flu," I said, and held out my hand for the pill. She gave it to me, and I swallowed it and washed it down with the water. I felt it coming on yesterday. Long day. I already called out for tomorrow. "Good, because Esther grabbed her phone, moved her index finger over the face, and then proceeded to put it in my face. I squinted and took her wrist to push the phone back. It took a few seconds for me to realize, that's a boarding pass. Yes, I have 2 tickets to San Antonio, Texas. You and me. We leave in 4 hours. I blinked again, trying to focus on her. Huh? Wow, you really are out of it. She dropped her phone in her bag. Drunkle Stan is serious about this folklore book, and he loved the idea of a real psychic medium, you snooping around and gathering ghost stuff. Wait. I held up a hand. Man, the pain had traveled down from my head to the back of my neck. First off, I don't tell anyone that I can sense things. Not necessarily ghosts or spirits. I just sense. Not even the hospital knows this part of me. I know. Which is, that's always worried me. What with all those dead people walking around? I'd known Esther long enough to know when she was pranking me, and this was one of those moments. If Esther was anything, it was skeptical. As a librarian, she could be very no-nonsense, needing more information. In fact, when we first met, I was still in the medium closet, so to speak. I had never shared my nightmare with my parents, my teachers, or even the one who turned out to be my best friend. Imagine my shock when she approached me and said, with her hands on her hips, "You're seeing shit no one else is seeing, and you're hearing or feeling it too. Which is it?" I denied it. "You tell me when you're ready. I've always been here, and I always will be." And she had, for 8 years. Esther, I don't see dead people. I can sense something sometimes. But you don't sense anything right now. No, I just want to sleep and get rid of this headache. Look, you rest and I'll pack you a bag for 2 days. Wait, I can't. Yes, you can, she said and stood. The look on her face melted me. I know you're sick, and everything inside of me says you need to rest, but I really want to do this, Lucas. I want to investigate it, see it, ask others about these places, and I want my best friend with me. She wanted me with her, even if I was ill. I nodded and abruptly passed out. She was late waking me up. I had broken the fever again, and the sheets were wet. Esther let me take a shower and got the car packed. We made it to the airport in record time for a Friday night, and were on the plane and in our seats. She had me sit against the window, where I instantly fell asleep again. The flight was 3 hours and 20 minutes, and Esther made it possible for me to sleep the entire time, which did help a lot. I wasn't expecting it to be cold in Texas. I don't know why, I just wasn't. But it was. We picked up the rental Stan provided, a nice 4-door which had a bag in the back. Esther thought it was left behind by the previous renter, but it had her name on the tag. What the hell? Inside were several gadgets, many of them I couldn't identify. Okay, there was one I did recognize. It was a camera. I checked it. It was an Nikon D3400 DSLR. I knew that because it was written on the side. Esther took the camera, popped it open, loaded film, checked the battery, and then put it up to her face and moved the lens back and forth. "He sent us equipment," I said. I don't know what that stuff is for." "Neither do I, so I'm not going to touch it until I can call him tonight. But," she put the camera back in the bag, "ready to head to the cemetery?" I looked up at the sky. It was darkening, but I wasn't sure it was from the approaching evening or a storm. "Now?" "Oh, yes. I want to see if you sense anything at cold reading." Cold reading? I hadn't told you anything about where we're going, so you'll be seeing it cold. I already have the address memorized, so get in and let's go. I smiled at her, excited for her. This was a treat for Esther, who spent a lot of time between the stacks, so to speak. But as we got in the car, I could feel my small time away from the flu coming to a swift end. The headache was back, as were the aches and pains in my joints. She grinned at me, and we took off for this Chinese cemetery. I shivered inside my jacket and scarf. The sky was overcast, and it looked like it would storm or snow. 45 minutes later, Esther and I were standing in front of what is known as the Chinese Cemetery, or the Loma China Cemetery. It wasn't what I thought it would be. "Well?" Esther stood beside me as we faced the gated entrance. Well, what was left of the entrance. I could tell it used to have a 2-door gate, but that was long gone. Parts of it, well, some of it was still there. Wind moved relentlessly around us, which was the only real weird thing I picked up on. The scattering of flowers I could see from where we stood, the headstones, the gifts, standing flower oasis, all of them were still upright and not blown over. This is a Chinese cemetery? It's a dead-end road. Standing outside the car and looking down this single dirt road, I could see the other end, the entire thing surrounded by trees, brush, and on one side, a wire fence. With my arms crossed over my chest, I moved to the side of the entrance and looked at the white signs. They were quite entertaining. Keep out. No witchcraft. Never mind the dog. Beware the owner. I looked over at Esther. No witchcraft? She nodded, and I realized she had the new camera in her hand, and she was taking pictures. I'll fill you in after we've done a bit of exploring. You getting anything? I gave her a pained look. My head aches back, and I'm pretty sure the fever is too. She approached and put her cool hand on my forehead and cheek. Yeah, you're warming up again. You think this is messing with your medium ability? I had to chuckle on that one. My medium ability? Made me sound like a superhero. I don't know. I mean, it's not like I switch it on or off. It's just... I uncrossed my arms from my chest and held them out. There. What I do sense, and I've had this feeling... Something brushed my ear. I reached up and pressed a hand against that ear and looked around. The feeling of foreboding was palpable, and it brought with it a little bit of anxiety and anger with it. Lucas? A whisper in my ear, but was it real, or was it the fever? How was I supposed to know the difference? I felt awful. I was spiraling down into something worse as we stood there. The sun was going down fast, or was that just my imagination? Hey! Esther had her hands on my elbows as she looked up at me. I had no idea how long she'd been doing that. I only noticed the stressed look on her face when my eyes met hers. Lucas, you okay? You're pale. I mean really pale. You keep staggering. I'm a little dizzy. Again, something spoke in my ear, but I couldn't make out any words. Are you picking something up? She made me sound like a receiver, but that's what I was, right? I closed my eyes. My teeth ached, the pain throbbing like a heartbeat. I need to get you out of this cold. What was I thinking dragging you out here? You want to get your drunkle some information? He can wait. Oh, be careful. A car pulled up to the right of ours, a 4-door Buick 225. I hadn't seen one of those Land Cruisers since my granddad had one. It was maroon with silver trim. 2 couples got out, all smiles, but I couldn't help but feel a little wary. How do, the tallest young man said. He wore a Texas A&M ball cap, a letterman's jacket, jeans, and sneakers. The girl beside him was dark-haired and seemed a bit worried about being here in the cemetery because she kept looking around. The other couple approached, the young woman obviously pregnant. None of them could have been above 25. Hello, I said, and though I wanted Esther to get behind me, she stood protectively in front of me. You all here to see the ghost? Baseball Cap said. Gotta wait till it's dark, which shouldn't be long. Are you talking about the flashing lights and waiting for the ghost woman? Esther said. That was the first I'd heard of that, and looked down at her. Ghost woman? Flashing lights? Baseball Cap laughed and held out his hand to Esther. I'm Jester Pines. This is my girlfriend Betsy, and our friends Hector and Jasmine Rodriguez. Esther gave our names. Jester nodded to what I was calling Cemetery Road. When it gets dark, you pull your car in, roll your windows down, and turn the car off. Then you flash your lights off and on 4 times. I raised my eyebrows. And then what happens? Esther answered, the ghost shows up. But the good part is, Jester leaned in close, if you keep watching her, she'll come to the car. I felt a moment of dizziness and nausea wash over me. The whispers were back, and something heavy and sad, angry, and resentful pressed down on my shoulders. "Oh there, dude. You don't look too good. You're about as pale as a ghost." "Yeah, he needs to be in bed," Esther said and pushed her body into mine, I guess to prop me up. I really wanted to get back in the car. The sun was nearly down. "We were just looking at the place, seeing it for ourselves." Never been out here," Esther said, "but my friends here told me about it." "Well, let us get out of your way so you can get in your car. It was nice to meet you, and good luck tonight." "Nice to meet the two of you," the Rodriguezes smiled and nodded. It was hard to get back into the car. I was not driving, not how I was feeling. Was this some kind of variant flu that made me dizzy? And what was with these, I don't know. I can only call them feelings of dread. I fell into the passenger side and Esther got me buckled up. I had my head against the window by the time she got in the car. I felt and heard the car crank, then moved backward and forward, and then we stopped. I turned my head and saw we were parked across the street, just to the right of the cemetery's entrance. "What are you doing?" "I'm going to see what happens. Just sleep." Sleep? In a cold car? Fine. It had been a long time since I'd seen Esther so focused on something. She'd always supported me through my rather odd crisis, from the first time I saw and felt something, to last month's really odd scene at her drunkle's house. Oh, and why do we call him Drunkle and not Uncle? You can figure it out. But the man has more money than the universe. I dozed on and off until I felt the car start and warmth hit my face. I came alert when Esther grabbed my shoulder and hissed, "Lucas!" I sat up and saw her looking intently ahead through the windshield. I looked too and saw the Buick backing up to the entrance. There was something else that made me grab the dashboard. It was big, as in tall, and from this distance it looked human, but its height was wrong. It was watching the Buick as it sped away, squealing tires as the two couples escaped. It moved to the entrance as if intending to give chase, but stopped. Its head snapped in our direction, and I knew it was looking at me. "Man, did you see them haul ass? Look up. There's a storm coming. Lucas? Lucas!" She touched me again, but all I could do was whisper, "Drive. It's Esther. Drive." She tossed the camera in the back, slammed her foot on the brake, threw it into gear, and slammed the car gas. The car lurched forward as she corrected her wheel and turned down the road. But what I felt was a cacophony of emotions, starting with anger to fear, frustration to rage, and finally, I felt revenge. Thunder vibrated the car. I wrapped my arms around my chest as I tried to climb out of the pit of despair that ghostly woman had pulled me into. I was cold and aching, and my head. "Lucas, what did you see?" Esther said from some distance away. I closed my eyes so I didn't have to see her. "Lucas!" But it was too late. I was already on the precipice of a hole. I lost my balance and pitched forward, and I fell for an eternity. Much of what happened after that is still wrapped up in fevered dreams. A tall woman made of what looked like white mist, the whispers, the feelings of dread, feelings of a life not lived. When I did wake up, I was in a hotel room bed. My clothes were folded neatly on the bed to the right. The second bed was made up, but equipment covered the surface, along with the bag from Drunkle's stand. I rubbed my face. I was wet. My hair was drenched. So were the sheets. I would say I checked my watch, but I'd never been able to wear one. An LED clock on the nightstand said 1:22. It was daylight outside. But what day was it? "Esther?" I said aloud. I sounded awful, and I cleared my throat as I dragged the cover off of me. Luckily, I still wore my jeans. I felt like hammered shit. That was the only description I had. My head didn't hurt anymore, but I was shaking from just moving. "Esther?" Looking around, I didn't see her messenger bag, so I tried to stand. I wanted a shower, and I felt crusty. Too bad I immediately sat back down after my body said, "No bueno." The door unlocked at that moment, and Esther bustled in, a bag in her hands or a bag on her shoulder. Oh, you're up! She set the bag on the table by the door and ran to me, gesturing for me to get back in bed. Were you trying to get up? Yeah. I still sounded bad. What day is it? It's Sunday, she said and directed me to sit up against the headboard. Sunday? I stared at her. What happened to Saturday? You slept through it. She straightened. Lucas, I'm sorry. I should not have dragged you out in this cold with the flu. Drunkle Stan gave me one hell of a reaming about being such a sucky friend. Your drunkle? I ran my fingers through my damp hair. What did I miss? A lot, but don't try to get up again until you eat. And I've got something from Doc Bird that he said you had to take with food once the fever broke. That's a lot to take in. I watched her run to the bathroom and come back with a new thermometer. She took it out of the package, turned it on, and handed it to me. Don't want to just give you back the flu from the old one. I agreed and stuck the thing under my tongue. I watched her. She pulled things out of that bag, including shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste, and a bag from Wendy's and a drink. That there's chicken soup and a Coke. I hope you're hungry because you haven't eaten since. Did you eat on Friday at all? I shook my head as the temp stick beeped. I took it out. No. And that soup smells wonderful. Good. You can smell. I looked at the temperature. My temp's down. How much? She took the thermometer. Oh, that's good. Now, you eat. I talk. Oh, and it's hot soup, so be careful. Should I blow on it for you? I glared at her. I think I can handle it. Really? Had she mothered me like this before? I carefully opened the container, grabbed the spoon, and ate while she filled me in on all I missed. Where to start? Oh, Esther tapped her chin. First, what did you see that scared you so bad at the cemetery? See, I lowered the container. I had to think about where my last memories were. Chinese cemetery, Jester and his friends, and... Oh, I looked at her. I'm not really sure what it was I saw, but I could feel bad things. Can you be more specific? Hate, depression, loathing, anger. Oh, and there was definitely a feeling of revenge. I had that emotion right as everything went black. That's when I drove off. You passed out. I couldn't wake you, so I got you to the hotel. I checked in, and that's when you called Stan? Yeah, he was relentless at me, said we could have waited until you were better. She honestly looked upset at herself. I'm sorry, Lucas. I keep saying that. Your fever got high enough that Doc Bird was afraid we'd have to get you to a hospital. I swallowed the soup, but to be honest, I couldn't taste it. How was it possible to smell but not taste, anyway? I pointed the spoon at her. You said Doc Bird before. Who's that? Oh, someone Drunkle Stan knows here in San Antonio. He's what did he call himself? A root doctor. A what? It's a doctor, Lucas, who works with herbs and potions and spells and other stuff. He already knew you had the flu. Plus, he said there was this thing that was trying to attach to you, but it went away after he cleansed you. I set the half-empty container on the nightstand. I did feel better and not so shaky. Maybe you need to start over. Drunkle Stan knows a root doctor in Texas. Honestly, given her Drunkle's personality, it tracked. And you let him do something to me? He took care of you, kept your fever from getting way too high. Now, just know he was good to you, and he helped you, okay? The only thing he wanted was... She stopped. I blinked. That worried me. He wanted what? He wanted a lock of your hair. Now, don't look at me like that. He said he was going to fix it where the ghost couldn't hit you with lightning. I rubbed my face. Okay, maybe you better tell me more about the cemetery and what it was I saw. What did you see? Okay, here it goes. I thought I saw a 7-foot woman made out of white mist. I crossed my arms over my chest. There, happy? Was she Asian? I couldn't see that far. Just tell me about this place and what they were doing that made them back out of there like a bat out of hell. Esther pursed her little bow mouth. Okay. The legend says that if you drive into the cemetery at night, lower your window and shut off your car, then flash your lights 5 times, though I've also heard 4 times. What they believe is the spirit of an Asian woman, a really tall Asian woman, made of white mist, will appear, and if you don't run, she'll come to your car and come through the window and grab you. And then if you get away, she'll make sure you're struck by lightning. There was a very long silence there, but she kept staring at me. Esther, that has got to be the craziest thing I've ever... You saw a tall woman made of white mist, she interrupted. I nodded. Yeah, but there wasn't any lightning. Jester's car was hit by lightning about an hour later. I think my jaw dropped. No. They'd already dropped the other couple off at their place and were on their way home when the car was struck. I didn't find out about it until I was at the hospital getting a few things for Doc Bird this morning. Jester's there, and I talked to the 2 of them. Apparently everyone's pretty sure she'll go after his friend Hector, who's scared and won't leave the house. Oh, it took me a minute to sort of put that together. They're afraid this ghost is going to go after Hector? Yeah. Lucas, Jasmine's pregnant, and they're just afraid. I can't say I blame them. This is nuts. But you saw her. Damn it. I get the feeling you and this bird guy came up with a way to stop that from happening. The lightning thing. Well, yes. But he said you had to be well. And Drunkle Stan already changed our flight home for tomorrow night. Esther, I have to be at work at the hospital Monday morning. No, he said he took care of that too. You'll be fine. Besides, you're sick. She frowned. For a nurse, seems to me you'd know better than to be out in the cold with the flu. Oh, for the love of... I narrowed my eyes at her. What's this plan? Well, it's kind of genius. She grabbed the bag she brought in and pulled out another container. This one was white with no markings on it. She placed it on the nightstand by the soup. We need to get back out there and take some pictures and see what kind of impressions you get so I can jot them down. Then we need to repeat what Jester did and see if she shows up again. And then she'll focus on you. Esther? But this stuff, she tapped the white container, will stop her from coming after you or me. I grabbed the container and opened it and nearly dropped it on the bed. It looked and smelled like churned cilantro. I am one of those people who can't stomach cilantro. It tastes like soap. Esther, you only have to drink a little of it and then wash it down with the soup. What about you? If I drink it, how does that protect you? She made a face. I already drank some. It was awful. I'm not. Lucas, drink it. I saw him make it. It's technically a health food smoothie with a little something extra in it. It'll give you energy. I can't drink cilantro. Oh, there's no cilantro in there, you big baby. She put her hand on my arm. I know I have been awful at this, our first time at a location, and I should have waited until you were better. But I'm just... Isn't this exciting, Lucas? You saw a real local legend. I found it endearing that I was the one that saw it, and she was the one who was happy. I took a deep breath and swallowed 3 mouthfuls, and actually, it wasn't that bad. I licked my lips. Is that melon in there? Yeah, and carrots and other things he said would actually help your body recover. Though he did say you were going to be a bit weak in the recovering, though not as bad as you were when you had that other flu. Don't say it, and don't give that damn virus any energy. I set the container aside and picked up the soup and finished it. Okay. Do you need to interview people or do research? She bounced her messenger bag and pulled out a brown notebook. The outside had been decorated with butterflies, Esther's favorite insect, and roses. Across the top it said, Fiction and Folklore, Field Notes. I already did while you were sleeping. You left me by myself? No, Doc Bird was here. Oh, don't look like that. He's a doctor. I told you that. So you say, I thought. Okay, so I need to shower, change clothes, and then we head out to the cemetery? Yes, I'll get the car ready. As I stood up, she helped me, and I wasn't as wobbly as before. I might finish that smoothie. You said he put a little something extra in there. What was that? I was at the bathroom door. Esther was packing up the equipment. Your hair and mine. I did end up drinking that shake, but I didn't quite believe he put our hair in it. I wanted the recipe because it did give me back a bit of my strength, and I wasn't so dependent on Esther. We took pictures of the cemetery, or rather, she took pictures. I grabbed a bag out of the car and started cleaning up trash. If there was one constant in the universe, it was tourists, and their footprint in a place. It disgusted me. I will admit, though, the place had a whole different feeling during the day. It felt empty. It wasn't until the sun went down that things got a bit woo-woo again, and that's me, a medium, calling it woo-woo. I heard whispers that Esther didn't hear and felt something nearby that Esther didn't feel. Yeah, it was me, all me. I drove the car into the cemetery with the headlights on, then parked about midway. I rolled the windows down, then shut off the car. Esther joined me, her camera ready, and she set some kind of triangle device on the dashboard. "What is that?" I asked. "It's called a K2 EMF meter. It picks up any kind of electromagnetic anomalies that may take place during a possible event." That sounded vague as hell. "It's just the easiest thing I could find in this bag of fun Drunkle Stan bought us. But don't you worry. By the time we have the next location, I'll know how to use it. And hopefully more of this stuff." I stared at the thing. "So does it light up or have an alarm?" "Both." She checked her watch. "Okay, go ahead and flash the lights." "Okay." I made sure she had her camera recording, and I flashed the lights 5 times and then sat back. Nothing happened. 10 minutes went by, and I didn't feel anything. "Maybe she's not here," I whispered. "She might be out making lightning on Hector. You know, I've been giving that a lot of thought." It wasn't that I tuned Esther out. It was that at that moment I was hearing something else. Voices, like a crowd forming around the car. I looked behind us, and then in front of us, and then out the window. Esther stopped talking. What do you see?" "I don't see anything, but That's when that little weird-ass device decided to go off, flashing a red light and beeping really, really loud. Esther grabbed it and found a volume on it. "Something's here." I looked straight ahead, and just there, in front of the car, I caught a white mist. It moved and swayed and grew much bigger, larger and larger until it was the same form I'd seen the night before. She was tall, way tall, and when she turned and faced us through the windshield, I could see her face in more definition. She was definitely Asian, and she looked crazy as fuck. "Lucas, what do you see?" "She's right there. She's in front of the car. You can't see her? She's angry and disappointed and upset, and she was looking right at me. I hadn't liked it the other night, and I sure as hell didn't like it now. I think we need to go." No. We have to see if she'll move." "Oh, she moved all right." She glided around the car to the driver's side, and I tracked her with my eyes until she bent down and looked at me. I'd never really been this close to a ghost or apparition or creature. When she reached in toward me, that little K2 meter went crazy, and I opened my mouth to yell out. Until Esther reacted like she had since high school and took out the gray bully when he backed her best friend into a corner. Twisting in the passenger seat, Esther grabbed my collar, yanked me into her, reared back her right hand in that cramped little space as that thing came in through the window, and punched it dead in the face. My mouth hung open as I watched her fist sink into the misty apparition, and the face folded inward like a punched pillow. It screamed, and I ducked my head and covered my ears as best as I could. And then it was gone. Opened one eye, and then the other. Esther was, by all accounts, hugging me, with her left fist holding my collar, and the other one still out in the middle of the open window. Her eyes were goose eggs, and her mouth was in a perfect O. "Esther?" She blinked and moved back, releasing my collar and pulling her hand back inside the car. She sat there a few seconds as I looked out the window, around the area, up at the sky at the full moon, and saw not a cloud, not a single bolt of lightning. I turned in the seat to look at Esther. She was still sitting there with her right hand in a fist. I touched it, and it was cold, ice cold. "Hey, you okay?" Yeah." "You punched it in the face. I saw it." Yeah. "You pushed its face in." Yeah. What did it feel like? That's when she looked at me and abruptly moved her open fist back and forth as if she were slinging something nasty off of it. It felt like, you ever made homemade slime? No. It felt like that. Lucas, I didn't see it, but I felt it. I felt a ghost. The funniest moment in that was that we hugged each other, as we always did when we had a moment of awesome. I grabbed her hand and rubbed it between mine to heat it back up. It was really, really super cold. Do you still feel it? She asked me. No, it's gone. And I don't think it'll be slinging lightning at us. No, I don't either. I sighed. You want Chinese? I'd love some Chinese right now, but you sure you should eat some? Yeah, I'm hungry. So, get your seatbelt on. Let's go. I carefully backed out of the cemetery and onto the road. I set my GPS to the nearest Chinese restaurant and hit the highway. We didn't say much for a long time, and then... Lucas? Yeah? I think I saw something. You did? Well, that's good. Maybe you'll eventually wake up your own talent. That would be cool. Esther? Yeah? You punched a ghost. She glanced at me as I glanced at her. I did. But the hard part is no one ever going to believe me. Drunkle Stan will. I should have turned the camera back on.
Now for the folklore part. Where the inspiration for the fiction came from.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I like that.
I would like to preface.
Preface.
I'm going
to preface.
You're going to word in this broadcast. Okay, I would like to preface. All of this stuff that I had looked up by stating that this graveyard is private property. It's owned by the Guzman family. And if you do decide after hearing this and thinking that it would be a neat idea to go, just keep in mind, it is ours. Be mindful of the people buried there. Don't just go and disturb the people that own it or the people buried. So
because have some respect.
Yeah, have some respect, because the family is not happy about all the people trying to go to see the ghosts and leaving trash and everything else there. Now, I do think that the Guzman family still owns the cemetery, but I'm not entirely for sure, because I did see something stating that they might have sold it, and that's why you can look at, when you look it up on Google, it states that it has it's open from 9 to 5.
It didn't have hours before?
I'm not sure. But I just know when I looked it up on the Google gave hours of operation from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
So we are talking about the Loma Cemetery, which is also known as the Haunted Chinese Cemetery or the Guzman Burial Ground. It's a long stretch of land that's wide enough to drive a vehicle down, and there's graves on either side that stretch of road. It dead ends, so you'd have to back all the way out. The entrance of it is closed off with what is left of the original wrought iron fencing. The wrought iron that is missing has been replaced by wooden stakes with cattle wire and a swing gate, which actually the latest image looks like it might have been ran into. It's a little bit bowed. Most of the names on the headstones and the crosses are of the Guzman family. However, on the right side, there are some Chinese names, because there are some Chinese people who are buried there in this thing. Now, there's a fine line between the history and the folklore, because it kind of blurs together with the cemetery's beginnings, talking about being owned by the Guzmans for over 120 years, which is where the folk tale begins. Over 100 years ago, there was this married man of the Guzman family who had a wife and 2 kids. Well, he was in love with this Chinese woman. One day, his family found out about, their secret relationship, and the head of the family told them that he was forbidden to see this woman ever again. had to stop their rendezvous. As always, in defiance, the two lovers decided to meet each other anyway in the cemetery, which was their secret meeting spot. Little bit kinky, if you ask me, but hey.
Okay. Wait, so the cemetery was already there.
Yeah, the cemetery was already there, so it's been there for a long time.
Okay, and that's where they decided to go.
Yeah, they would meet secretly in the cemetery.
Well, I mean, think about it. You don't actually think about following somebody to a cemetery. You don't think,
No.
Where are they? Are they at a coffee shop or at
Where'd they go? They went to the park. No, they're over there amongst the quiet tombstones.
Pull up a chair here by Great Aunt Susie.
Hi. They're sitting on the bench in between Uncle and Auntie. They decided to meet at this cemetery and, of course, not tell nobody. While he was waiting, he was sitting on his horse and he was struck and killed by lightning.
Ow.
Killed them both.
There's anything about the horse.
Yeah, just killed by the horse is dead and he was dead. Poor horse.
Man. Okay.
And, of course, he was later buried in the family cemetery. Now, later, his lover, she was so upset that he was gone that she actually committed suicide on his grave. The family, apparently feeling guilty, ended up burying her next to him.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
They buried her next to him.
Yeah.
But it's actually kind of a nice thing to do.
It's sweet. Mm-hmm. It's a sweet sentiment. Feels a little weird that you bury your husband's mistress next to him, but... whatever. I mean, he
wasn't married.
No, he was
right?
married. Yeah, he had a wife and two kids.
He was? Oh,
yeah, he was.
Oh, I missed that part. Oops.
Yeah, he had a wife and two kids.
Okay.
So this lady he was in love with was basically his mistress.
Oh, okay. Missed that.
Mm-hmm. But after she was buried, her spirit then began to haunt the cemetery, which is how the cemetery is, or why the cemetery is supposed to have gotten the name, the Haunted Chinese Cemetery. The current Guzman heir said that since the lover's death, there's been a curse on the cemetery, and those that see this ghostly apparition of the woman are struck by lightning. Rumors are all over the place. Most of them are about seeing like a form of mist, the ghostly mist. Mm-hmm. There's also other rumor, if you drive to the cemetery and park your car in front of the gate, you cut your car off, roll down the windows, flash the lights 5 times, that the apparition of this Chinese woman, who, when she appears, is over 7 feet tall, she'll either dart around inside of the cemetery gates, or she'll come up to the occupants of the cars and start whispering to them, or she'll reach and grab you.
That was the one that got me.
Your open window. And that was a little bit much. I can handle her darting around, but we're not playing tag. We're not doing that.
Not get in my car. Boundaries.
Yeah, there have been people who have attempted this and say that they did see her, but when she turned to glare at them, they didn't stay long enough to see if she walked toward them. There's also supposed to be an image of the man on his horse in the cemetery. But I only saw one thing talking about that. Mostly it's just, seeing a 7-foot-tall Chinese lady. Angry Chinese lady. Other rumors talk about witchcraft actually being done in the cemetery, which is why there's signs that say no witchcraft. But it's people have seen, I guess you could say discarded items. Not necessarily all trash, but discarded items of people having gone in there to try to do witchcraft. And there's even some animal bones in the cemetery which people, have found and speculate whether that they were used with the witchcraft or, in my opinion, I think a stray dog pulled something in and ate it. But that's just me, I guess.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, stray dog, if it's pull anything anywhere and eat it, and I've seen it. One witness account back in 2015 talks about a young couple that drove to the cemetery. They parked, they flashed the lights, and then they watched as the mist appeared. Everything got really eerie quiet as the mist began to form the shape, and then she started to make their way toward them, but she stopped. And eventually she just vanished. She didn't do anything, she just vanished. And they just sat there in astonishment for 30 minutes before they left.
Really?
Yeah. I guess she didn't care wasn't happy about them. She didn't care.
Oh, okay.
People, of course, recount feeling cold spots. Because again, this is Texas, and typically our nights are dark and humid. So they keep feeling cold spots. They see light orbs. They'll smell strange smells. They'll see black shadows moving around the cemetery. Ghost fog settling at the entrance. And of course, the unnerving feeling of being followed, or attempts of being possessed, like something's trying to smush you over and join you in your suit, your meat suit.
In your suit. Okay. Okay. I'll keep the pants. You use the top. Okay. Oh God.
The cemetery has had its share of desecration. People coming in and actually digging up some of the graves.
I didn't know that. Oh wow.
Back in 2018, there was a grave disturbed inside of the cemetery. It was the grave of the mother of, and I apologize for these pronunciations, Prisciliano Machado, coming to visit for Christmas, only to see the grave partially dug into, and a woman's blouse was not far off from the grave. Machado stated that the grave besides hers, which belonged to his brother Daniel, had also been disturbed twice back in 2009. And the cement slab was tipped over the first time, and the second time the grave had been dug up and the casket opened. And Machado believed that the clothes in the coffin seemed undisturbed, but he was pretty sure that there were bones missing.
Oh,
so it's like, yeah, people were stealing bones or something. Which is something else that actually points toward the people talking about witchcraft. Stealing people bones.
I can see that happening.
To stop the desecration of his brother's grave, he actually had cement poured over it, and he actually planned to do the same thing to his mother's after the desecration of hers. Machado, of course, unsure what prompted the excavations of his loved ones, but he did plead during both instances that people stop. Because, I mean, that's very disrespectful. That's not right.
Well, that is very disrespectful. Yeah, that's...
Just leave the dead be. You're not Frankenstein. Go someplace else.
It's something like that. I kind of wish that, if you're going to do it, then there's going to be a ghost that haunts you. I wish the ghost would go haunt them.
There needs to be a movie about that.
What?
Like, somebody goes to, rob a grave, and all of a sudden, get haunted by the ghost of the person they stole from.
Oh, there probably is.
Oh, there probably is. I gotta have to try to look something like that up, because that would be probably kind of cool. It would be awesome if it was like a comedy.
I love it.
Okay, Guzman believes that the motive behind the diggings, of course, was related to the witchcraft associated with the cemetery, instead of the haunted part of the side of the cemetery. However, Machado, whose family members it happened to, stated that the only one haunted is the people that is doing the wrong things at the cemeteries.
I like that. I agree with that.
Because they're messed up. There's not right with them.
So you go to the cemetery and start desecrating other people's...
I was taught never to even step on the grave.
Oh, I know. I'm horrified.
I try so hard, and if I absolutely have to walk on one, I usually look down and I'm like, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Again, there's no other step, but please forgive me. I'm sorry. There are some comments that if you go to the Google, if you go and look it up on Google, there actually are some comments made by other people about toward the cemetery, about people who have been there. There is let's see, Casey Pillam made a comment about 5 months ago, maybe 6 by now. And they talked about how while they and their cousin never saw anything related to the haunting, they did find tons of beer cans and trash. And of course, the two of them ended up grabbing a trash bag out of the car and just picking up trash because of how much was left behind, which is...
Oh, good. I was going to ask about that. Hope they picked it up.
They picked it up. Gangsta Boo replied 2 or 3 months ago. Said that they heard
the Ghost Brothers.
They heard a growl and that something didn't feel right, and they had definitely been cold spots and the smell of death. If you ask me, the growl was probably a stray animal
or someone's
or something. Well, I mean, they could have been hungry. Let's see, Jessica Spencer, about 3 years ago, stated that they loved going to old cemeteries. During their visit to the Loma Cemetery, all they saw was pretty graves. No type of haunting, no smells, no cold spots, but there was tons of trash. So they're,
yeah, that's a reoccurring theme.
It's very reoccurring. People are always tossing trash. So they, of course, plead to visitors, don't do that. If you're going to go, just, take your pretty pictures and that, leave. Don't toss crap on the ground, because that's, again, disrespectful. Let's see. Then we have Kelly McCullum. A year ago, she wrote that she and her husband went during the night, and they saw a small windmill spinning like crazy, even though there was no wind. And that's when they saw like a large shadow pass over in front of the car, and they left immediately.
Cool. I like it though.
So either, ghost is doing reconnaissance, or there's a bird that flew over the car.
Ghost reconnaissance?
Yeah. Okay.
Like a Mission Impossible.
Yeah, they gotta look. It's like, okay, are we gonna scare these people or not? Quick, get back to the ghost lady. We got one. We got a live one.
Oh, God, okay.
And then we have Netta Davis, about 3 years ago, states that they and their tribe went to the cemetery and felt the temperature drop and smelled a foul smell as soon as they entered. They took pictures and found orbs in the photos, and even the gate started to shake when they were there. I don't know what to say about the gate shaking.
I don't either.
Because, I mean, like I said, the shadow could have been, bird, but for the foul smell, somebody could have let out a fart for all we know, but I don't know about the ghost orbs or the gate shaking, so.
Oh, God.
Okay. Brian G., about 8 years ago, states that it is worth the visit, but to be careful while in San Antonio, because San Antonio is known for vandalism and crime, and to avoid trespassing, as the cemetery is private land, and to not be disappointed if other people are there at the same time you are, because haunted place, people want to see the haunt. Everybody wants to see the ghost.
And it does have hours. So,
yeah.
So even though it's private property, it's still open to the public during those hours. You just need to take care of it.
Yes. You need to be nice.
You will not be
nice
alone.
to it. See, Anne Marie, 3 years ago, stated demands, because she wrote it in all caps, like big shouting.
Okay, so she shouted.
Yeah, she was basically shouting, saying that people needed to stay out of her family cemetery and to not disrespect her family just to get their Halloween fix. So I imagine, considering that comment, Halloween is probably the worst time for the cemetery.
Don't you know? People wouldn't have their little rituals. You got like 6 different groups or.
Can you imagine the amount of trash probably left from Halloween?
No, that would just be awful.
Ugh. Emilio Perex, a year ago, had wrote that they also stated that the cemetery belonged to their family and that their great-grandfather was buried there. So, I mean, right off we've got 2 people actually associated with the cemetery being like, yeah, that's actually associated with my family. One of them saying, y'all need to quit.
Just have some respect, please.
And then Azrael 210, a year ago, states that they and their friends visited. They smelled death, felt cold spots as they walked around looking at the graves, and saw white mist cross their path as they were going back to the car. Again, somebody could have let out a fart.
No 7-foot tall woman.
But no 7-foot tall woman, no. The only thing that was that really talked about possibly have seen the lady was back in 2015, which is where the couple stated that they saw her and she just disappeared. So.
But she didn't try coming in the car.
She didn't try to grab them. Would have made for a funnier story.
Yeah, something like that coming into the car. That is just horrific.
She tried to grab my husband and we left. I've got my resources, that I found all of this stuff from, that I'm actually going to be putting in the comments, or maybe in the comments. Depends on how this goes.
The show notes. Yeah.
The notes. That way, if any listener ever wants to take a glimpse or have a look, you will be able to click on these and look at the same information that I did.
So look up the Haunted Chinese Cemetery in San Antonio, Texas.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of neat because I had no idea this place even existed. Not
It's
that I've been to
very
San Antonio
small.
much. Mm-hmm.
It's when you look at the Google Maps, it's like you would easily miss this place. Like it doesn't.
Well, just from the pictures, I mean, you see this as dilapidated, torn up gate, and you're like,
Well, it kind of looks like if it like a. You know how some houses have a lot of land, so they build the house way in the back, and then they have the long driveways.
Yeah, it's like it's just a ponderosa on it or something. Is what
Yeah.
it looks like. It doesn't look like it's actually the gate to a cemetery.
Yeah, it's like it looks like a personal drive that nobody wants, because it's got the gate closing it all.
Right.
That's what it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of.
They do.
But yep, 7-foot tall Chinese lady, and a dude on a horse in San Antonio, Texas.
This has been our first expedition for Locus and Esther. We hoped everybody enjoyed it. Are we going to pick where we go next?
Time to spin the wheel.
Yes. You have to tell me, since I can't see the wheel, you have to tell me what it is when you do it.
Alrighty. Alright, let me hit this button over here. All these spoopy names. And poke. I said poke. Poke!
Did it not work?
No, it took 3 times.
Okay.
What are we doing? We are doing Rhodes Hall.
What? In Atlanta?
Yeah. So we did one in Texas, now we're doing one in Georgia.
Oh, yeah, Rhodes Hall.
Thanks everyone who stopped by to give us a watch and a listen. If you liked hearing these two moms he and haw, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. If you want, let us know what you think of Lucas and Esther's investigation, as well as put your 2 cents in on what you think about the folklore. And we will see you next time. Till then, bye.